Hello and welcome to this episode of Paula's Run Club with me, Paula Radcliffe.
And me, Christopher Thompson.
And this week we have got such a great guest coming up. I can't really convey, although it's probably coming across already, a little bit of my enthusiasm for this guest. It is Iwan Thomas, who very well known as a 400-meter runner, recent world champion, recently got that gold medal at the anniversary games for the 4x4 at the World Championships in 1997 in Athens. But many titles, Commonwealth titles, European titles, medals throughout his career. Also has completed a 100-mile ultra, which he will talk about across the South Downs. Hugely inspirational guy, and I don't know about you, Thommo, but I'm really excited about chatting to you.
Yeah, no, he's an absolute legend. Like he's one of the idols I had growing up as a sport, like yourself. Do you know what I love about Euan? What you see on the screen when he's broadcasting is what he is when you meet him face to face in person. What you see is what you get. He's a very pure of heart, lovely guy. Lots of stories, very exciting life. He's just a fantastic ambassador for the sport and just being a dad, being a husband and being a good friend. I just love him to bits.
Absolutely, and I think he's so genuine, as you said, and just infectious in his enthusiasm for running. So let's crack on and invite Euan in.
Perfect. Let's go.
And it is maybe going to be a little bit more chaotic an episode than we normally have, and that's probably saying something. But I also think it's going to be a really strong one this time. So we are going to dive straight into the magic that is going to be shared with us by Iwan Thomas, fresh from reallocation of your gold World Championship 4x4 medals at the anniversary games. And now, I don't know what title we actually give you now. Do we give you in-stadia announcer, podcast host, ultra runner, marathon runner, half runner, basically enthusiast?
I don't know, yeah. I was thinking the other day, like, Power of 10 completed it. Because I was looking at my Power of 10, and I reckon, genuinely, I might have the best range, if you like, from like 10.6 for the 100, 20.8 for 2, 44.3 for the 4, 19 for parkrun 5k, 40 for 10k. I've done a 134 half, and my marathon's not so good, but I have also done an ultra, obviously a 100 miler. So I don't think there's many Olympic sprinters who have gone on to do a 100-mile ultra marathon. I know we're idiots, but there's not many crazy of us still around to do that. But yeah, I must confess, you know what it's like, Paul and Thommo on the team. Sprinters think we're the cool ones. Then you get the distance runners who are a bit nerdy, a bit boring, if you like, and the field eventers who are crazy. But I actually think nowadays the characters in the sport are the distance runners, the middle distance and the long distance runners, I think, are coming to the fore, genuinely, when it comes to track and field. And I know you're all characters, and you were anyway, but it just seems for me, back in the day, it was the Gobby Loud Sprinters who seemed to take the limelight, and that's not right.
There still are some Gobby Loud Sprinters, aren't there?
Oh,
but I think what it is that there are more characters actually talking about it. And I don't know about you, Thommo, but I was definitely of the, right, okay, I know inside what I'm going to do, and I'm going to get out there and do it. I don't need to shout about it beforehand, and I don't need to do that. But everybody needs to do what works for them. And I think now, increasingly, for the likes of, I'm going to cite the example of Josh, there's Josh Kerr and then there's Inga Britson. And yet some of it is tongue-in-cheek. And whatever it's doing, it is encouraging people to follow that. And it's creating the drama around it that's not dissimilar to the kind of co-Cramovet thing, is it? There's a little bit of needle in there, but also a lot of healthy respect, I think, amongst the guys, and producing some phenomenal racing, which is great for everyone to watch, and inspiring the kids. I think that's really important too. I think if you look back, and I don't know, give us the age of your kids.
Yeah, so I've got like a 18 months, 3 and 6, and it's absolute carnage. In fact, I'm so pleased you invited me on today, because I've told them they've got to go out for an hour, and it's just like the silence
energy
is lovely. And in fact, I know we'll probably get onto it and why people run, and but for me, genuinely, exercise is my go-to happy place. When the kids are absolutely doing my head in, I'll either go to the gym or I'll just get my watch on, put some music on, and go for a run. Because for me, it's my time to sort of de-stress and be alone with my thoughts, if you like. And when you're busy we've all got busy lifestyles, but I've got 3 boys, and they're all young, and they're all mental. It's not like nice girls who go and do some colouring and look after
Believe me,
themselves
girls can
and
have their
behave.
difficult spots as well.
My boys are just like carnage, pure
Well,
carnage.
you used the words before you came on. You're trying to keep fit so you can run away.
Exactly. Honestly, and they're all quick. I'm trying to either catch the baby because he's about to hurt himself, or I'm getting shot at with a Nerf gun from my 3-year-old, or like Teddy's wanting to do relay races in the garden, you know. And it's just like, I came into fatherhood quite late. Like, I had my first kid when I was 45, which is relatively late. And like, lucky I'm young at heart, because genuinely, I've got to be fit just to keep up with those three. Honestly, I've got to be fit.
It's keeping you young as well, Euan.
Well,
And I did
don't
think
know.
it was a beautiful moment when you got your medal. And I have to say, massively impressed by the way you juggle your different roles, because I thought that was just so seamless. You basically came off the rostrum, gave Teddy your medal, your mum the flowers, took your jacket off, straight over with a mic and back to in stadium announcing. And that's impressive to be able to juggle all of that. I did
Yeah.
have to say, our BBC producer did say in our ears at the time, oh my God, he's just given his medal away to some random child.
Oh no, I can probably beat that. Someone on Instagram said, what a lovely moment giving your boy your medal, and that old lady you gave your flowers to, she was made up. You should have seen her face." I said, "That was my mother." But yeah, I actually didn't know your cameras were on at all, because I sort of came off and I saw Teddy, and I went, "Oh, Teddy, come here. This medal's yours now, my boy," and gave him the medal and gave my mum the flowers. And then it was only when I sort of finished work that night, and my Instagram, everyone was saying, "Oh, what a lovely moment with Teddy, the BBC showed." I was like, "Oh, did they?" I didn't know. But yeah, that was kind of quite a weird one, because it was really emotional at the weekend. We'd waited 28 years for that moment. And I knew, obviously, I was working, so I kind of had to take my working hat off. And then the national anthem played, and I genuinely was getting quite emotional by that. Due to the fact that 60,000 people on their feet, it was lovely. And then, as you said, Paula, literally gave my medal back quickly, put my earpiece back on, and I was introducing the women's high jump or whatever it was. And I had to sort of like chill out a little bit and remember why I was there. But it was a really emotional day. It was lovely.
Did you?
It was great. I mean,
because you're a lot. We talk a lot about like retrospectively getting upgraded as being losing that moment. But obviously, if you'd have had that in '97, you wouldn't have had your family there.
Yeah.
And Teddy there. So, in some weird way, did you get like a kind of a slightly different but equally great buzz? Do you think? Like,
I think
from
maybe
it,
a better buzz, Thommo. I think with maturity, although I know I'm not really mature, but I think me in 1997, a 23-year-old, probably would have taken it not for granted, but have been like, wicked, yeah, world champs, lap of honour, love it. You know, whereas now I can stand back and as an old man thought, wow, that's a British crowd who are celebrating us. And I think what meant the most to all of us was we clearly brought a lot of joy to people in the mid to late 90s when we were running, and the amount of people who did say, "I remember that race, I watched it, and it's lovely you've got your moment now." And as you said, my parents were there, Teddy was there. I wouldn't have had that personal connection. And I think, if anything, it probably meant more at the weekend. Honestly, on a selfish note, I could moan about the loss of revenue, the bonuses, the sponsorship money as a world champion. That moment there and then in Athens would have been great. But actually, looking back, this was perfect. It was like a perfect ending, not an ending to our career, but it's just a lovely way to celebrate something I did with four, well, including Mark, who ran in the heats, in the final, obviously 4 of us, but we're all really good mates. And it was just lovely. And also, it sounds a bit not sadistic, sounds a bit morbid, sorry. I messaged everyone after, we've got a group WhatsApp saying, "Hey, do you know what? We're lucky we're still all alive. We're not young men anymore." And things, I know we're not that old. Sorry, Paul, I'm the same age. But,
I'm older.
Things can happen. I mean, Roger's had his issues with his heart, so quite conceivably, getting the 4 of us in the same place at once is quite hard to do anyway. But I'm just really pleased we're still fit and healthy and happy.
And I think it came across so well, didn't it? That team camaraderie, and that, you're right. That's what everyone loved then. And you talk about the little bit of the sprinters and the distance runners, but for me 400s was just, everyone liked 400s and everyone loved the 4x4 relay, and just seeing that camaraderie and Jamie with his pineapple hair just running around, and it was just something extra came out of you guys in the relay event. And I think that really captivated people, so it was really special. But I want to touch on Teddy, and because he now, how much does he understand about, presumably he never saw you as an actual sprinter, but he has watched videos. He understands that a little bit.
he started school last year, and then, you know, I promised when I started the school drop-offs, I'm not going to get involved with all the gossip on the school gates, chatting to the mums and all this, the committees. And literally within like a couple of weeks, I'm asked if I can do a school assembly, bring him in medals and all that kind of stuff. And I've really thrown myself into the dad life, and I love it. His school is fantastic. But yeah, he knows enough whereby I did do an assembly, and I had to play some footage of me winning races, and I could see him sitting up in assembly. That's my dad. And you can see he's kind of really proud of it. But obviously he didn't know really too much. I've only showed him YouTube videos and bits and pieces. But he gets it if we're out and about and someone might go, oh, can I have a picture with your daddy? And, you know, even at the ice cream shop yesterday, you know what it's like. People will recognise you from time to time, and it's really nice. And then I think he's now understanding what I did for a living. I hope he understands, and I hope it did, brought joy to other people as well. Because, you know, for all three of us here, it doesn't matter how successful you are in life or what you deem as success. Some people look at monetary value as being the all be all and end of everything, earn loads of money, or, you know, have recognition. But what we all did was put our hearts on the line, and when we especially put on that British vest, tried to be the best that we could be. And I know we're all very open about, you know, what sport has given us and so forth. But, you know, Thommo, for you as well, I think you're one of those distance runners who I really admire as well, because, you know, I've lined up along, I won't say against you, but at the same Great South runs, Great North runs, all sorts of bits. And you always take time to speak to the people, and you're all really, really honest with your emotions. And, you know, and I think you're very grateful for what you've got out of the sport. We all are. But what I'm trying to get at, I think people probably respect us, or at least appreciate what we did to our best ability. We didn't go out and win the lottery. You didn't go on Love Island and all of a sudden get 1 million followers because you had a little bit of a fumble under the duvet. You know, we were good at what we did. Do you know what I mean? But fame is very different now. You know, fame is so different now. In our day, you had to achieve something, be it in music, in sport, in science, whatever it was, to be recognised in your chosen field, to be good at what you do. Now, the good thing about what we did, the stopwatch doesn't lie. It doesn't matter if the selectors don't like us. If we run quick enough, we're going to the championships. If we run quick enough, we're going to be coming home with medals. So I think the British public tend to appreciate what we did. And I think that's a lovely thing to be able to look back and say to my boys, oh, that woman recognised me because she's seen me run on television before, which is nice. It's not like, oh, that woman recognised me because Daddy was on Crime Watch for robbing a bank. You know, what we've done with pride.
But that's the thing, isn't it? I think that no one, and I've seen like a lot of interviews you've done, and I've looked up to you a lot, like going back to the Loughborough days when you first came and went there when I started university. You just had this aura about you, and I think of it from my angle looking at you. For you, you just were yourself trying to achieve something, and it wasn't like you were looking for that aura to come out of you. You just were trying to achieve and do great things, and it kind of the byproduct of the success and the respect from everyone else is kind of not what we're looking for. You're kind of just trying to drive yourself to be the best you can. It's like quite a lot of the time professions or things in public there is a byproduct of wanting to be famous, but sports people aren't looking to be famous. They're not looking for that. They're looking to just win and do the best they can. And so one of the things I saw with you recently, you were talking about how it came very suddenly for you, like in terms of you were kind of thrust into this spotlight very, very, very quickly, and sort of managing the fact that no one tells you what that's going to feel or look like. Do you know what I mean? No one sits you down and go, look, you're going to be front page. You're going to be, you know, all eyes are on you, and there's no kind of education of how to handle that and how to deal with that. So I think in so many ways, the purity of how you go on that journey then also means there's almost like a purity to come off it. So I guess there needs to be a question in this. I think, what did that feel like to be kind of on top of the world, and then how you kind of dealt with that day to day to feel that kind of superpower, I guess.
Yeah, I never saw myself as anything special at all. I don't. I just, you know, saw myself as someone who, in sport, it did happen really quickly. Like 1992 World Junior Champs, I'd only run like 1 400 or 2 400s before I got selected. It was like, wow, you know, straight from school sports day, and all of a sudden it kind of happens quite quickly. But I think maybe in a way that was a good thing for me, because I didn't think about it too much. It kind of came along, and the byproduct of running fast was people started to know you. And remember, when me and Paula were around, and I'm not being disrespectful to today's athletes at all, but I think we were more well known because there wasn't a million channels on TV. There wasn't YouTube or social media. There was a couple of channels on TV. Every Friday night athletics was on, and it was a big deal because we were good. You think when I was coming through, just look at the name: Paula Radcliffe, Colin Jackson, Denise Lewis, Steve Backley, Jonathan Edwards, Darren Campbell, Linford Chris, Sally. We had so many household names where I reckon at least 10 to 15 British athletes could walk down the street and everyone would know who they were. Whereas now, with all due respect, and that's not because we haven't got the great athletes, I just think because sport, that era, that heyday was bigger, I think. And for me, as you said, it did kind of come quickly, but I loved it. I loved the fact if I was going out for a run on a Tuesday to warm up for a track session around the sports centre, 5 people walking their dogs would go, all right, mate, love watching you on TV. You give it to them Americans, because I wore my heart on my sleeve. I told it how it was. If I ran badly, I wasn't afraid to say that. But also, if I ran really well, I wasn't afraid to show my emotions as well. And I think athletics went through a generation, or certainly a period of time, where, unfortunately for me, all the athletes were a little bit samey, like they got in there, thank you, I'd like to thank the National Lottery, and it was all a bit robotic, whereas it lost a little bit of the edge of the personalities, I think. And during my day, there certainly were big personalities. And I always sort of went into sport whereby never wanted fame, never even cared about money. Genuinely, I just wanted to try. In my head, I just wanted to be better than Roger Black. Right, when that came, I thought, right, I want to try and beat Michael Johnson. Right, try and do that. And then by doing that, you're going to run fast, and then you're going to get medals. Then you're going to be on TV. You're going to get recognised. But I never ever thought I'm going to be an athlete because I'm going to one day be famous and it's going to earn me a good living. I'm going to travel. No, I just wanted to be quick. And I'm so lucky to have made a living out of it. I never dreamt it.
No, and I think that's what made you as good as you were, Euan. If you look back at it, you were just having fun, and you were still like, and I mean this in the nicest, like you were like a kid just getting in there, enjoying it. Let's just absolutely see what I can do. And for me, Thommo talked about your time at Loughborough. I remember watching you coming back from injury.
Yeah.
And I remember chatting to you about it. And you said something at the time. You said, basically, I'm overthinking it. I'm over-analysing too much instead of just getting out and running. And that seemed to be like the difficult bit, is when your body starts to break down on you. You're almost like looking for it all the time, aren't you? Is this okay? Yeah. You're checking in instead of just getting on with it. And so many of our listeners will be coming back from injuries. And I remember Jared Hartman, my physio, who's been on the podcast, giving me the advice once, saying, listen, just don't think about it when you're out running, because if it's bad, it's going to tell you itself. And if it is okay, you don't have to check in on it every 5 minutes, because your mind will conjure up things and start to create them. Yeah. And so I guess the point I'm trying to get to is, when you finished your competitive career and then you transitioned to the different running, it sounds really silly because there's a lot more to think about if you're trying to do an ultra. I'm sure there are so many different variations and things, variables and fueling and things like that you need to think about. But there is also a really, really simple part to it at some point, where we just get into one foot in front of the other, and that's all we're thinking about. And I think that's the bit that's the strongest for our mental health, because you literally don't think about anything, do you? You just empty your mind.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't even plan a route. I just literally, like last week, it was a really hot day, and stupidly I thought, I'm just going to go to the South Downs way. I'm just going to run. I don't know how far I'm going to go. And I got to 10 miles and I nearly collapsed. I thought that'll do for me. But the beauty of running for me, when it's less pressure and it's not my career, and although having said that, I do parkrun and everyone tries to out sprint me at the end. So I think I'm always going to be a target. But I love the simplicity of just putting on the shoes, shutting the door and just going. And I think for many people, the hardest bit is actually getting out the door, going for a run, because I can't be bothered half the time. Sometimes I think, I'm in a bad mood, I don't want to go for a run. But I've never come back from a run feeling worse. I always come back there, I'm so pleased I went, I'm buzzing. And I'll actually genuinely, I'm going to run later on after this, because I just like to just go out. And I just like to either listen to music or listen to nothing and just take in the scenery. And I also think we're a little bit down, I am anyway, I'm a bit down on this country sometimes. I'm always not always looking for, but always seeing the negatives around Britain at the moment. But you go out on your doorstep, there's some beautiful runs out there. Wherever you live, I guarantee who's listening to this, you go and turn left and turn instead of turning right today, and find out where you might take yourself. And don't worry about a plan, a route. You'll find your way back. And for me, running is a way of just unloading, not thinking about anything, and just knowing when I come back from that run, I'm going to feel way better. And I'm not fast. Listen, guys, I go out for a run now. You'll be embarrassed if you ran with me.
No,
Sometimes,
we wouldn't.
Sometimes
No,
I
we
do
wouldn't.
10-minute miling. I just literally, as you said, Paula, one foot in front of the other,
Yeah.
and I just get round. But I always feel
It
really
is. I mean,
good
it's
when I go
like-
for a run.
Yeah, and that's what we try and say. And even for people going on holiday, it's the best way to explore a new place, isn't it? Go out in the morning for your run, find the best places to go, find the best beaches, find the best places in town. It's the quickest way to get your bearings in an area, and just to be able to also set yourself up for the day ahead. I will give one thing: when Euan says shut the door and just go in any direction, maybe not on holiday, but it's got a little bit of a map, because we did lose my husband once in Seville because he completely lost himself running around the streets.
I remember this story. Yeah. Yeah.
But he actually got lost.
Yeah, properly lost, because it was all in the little streets, and the hotel was just a tiny little hotel kind of, and all the streets looked the same. And it was kind of like in the early 2000s, it wasn't like you could just have your mobile phone with you. So he basically, all he had was a room key, but he'd taken the room key out of the pocket. So it was the generic room key. So it took him a good couple of hours to find his way back after he realised he was in the wrong place. So yeah, take a little bit.
I think
of
you've
map or
also
look
got
on
to
your phone.
realise with running as well. Definitely. I think with running, you've got to realise as well, I've never met an absolute idiot out on a run, in terms of you meet some good people as well. You know, I've made some really good friends through running. And I just think it's one of those sports where nobody judges you. And I think that's the biggest problem. A lot of people, I get messages sometimes, oh, you know, I'm not in good shape. I don't know where to start. I'm embarrassed to go out and do like a run. And just get out there. No one's going to judge you. And I think that's the beauty. You can do like a 5K, 10K marathon, whatever you want. And everyone supports everyone. You know, it's got that really lovely feeling about nobody wants you to fail. Everybody wants you to do as well as you can do. And if you've run a personal best, everyone's happy for you. And I think that's the beauty of running. It's that companionship and the friendships you build as well when you're out there.
Because one of my fond memories of you to that point was, I think I'm getting my dates right, it was 97 Kuala Lumpur. In the heats, you ran down 98, and you ran down the home straight, sticking your tongue out at your teammate Jamie Bolsh in the semis or the heats of the 400. So you both qualified, and you're having fun with it. You're just looking at each other, sticking your tongue out. Right, we're in the next round, and it's hard to do when you're doing an event that close to your line, because obviously. And the question I was going to be was like, in 400, you're staying in a lane effectively. You're running your own race. But when you go into distance running, you're all getting each other's grill. You're kind of knocking into each other, and you can have that bit more banter. And I think in 4x4 relays, I think I've heard stories of you guys will make the odd comment to the other competitors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're making little like kind of bit of sledging. But in distance running, you can have that quite often and quite regularly. So how did... You're quite fun by nature, so how that has kind of fed into your kind of distance running. You've already touched upon it a little bit about how you've made a lot of good friends, but how that kind of staying in your lane aspect, how that's some of the lessons from 400 have gone into distance running and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's the hardest thing for me is the kind of pace judgment when it comes to distance, because 400 just became so natural to me. Like, you know, say I was doing a session of 6.3s or 8.2s, I didn't even have a stopwatch, and I could go through a line, and I knew literally... bang on, I'd turn around and shout to Mike, oh, that was only 22.6. He went, yeah, 22.61, that one. You know, I just was so in tune with my body. But the problem I have with distance running is, especially when I first started doing things like the London Marathon, I remember I'd be running around and I'd see like a 75-year-old woman with a hunchback, like shuffling along, overtake me. I think, that can't be right. I'm buff, I'm fitter than her, and I'll overtake her. And then I look at my watch, I think, whoa. So I suppose what I'm getting at, don't judge a book by its cover, and don't worry about what's happening around you, because we're all different. And I think you've got even more so with distance running, stay in your own lane, set your pace. That's the beauty of smartwatches. Run to the feel, of course, and that's what I normally do. But I make the mistake every year when I do a longer race, like a marathon, of maybe going slightly too fast for the first sort of 5 to 10 miles and thinking, oh, I'll be all right. And I never am. I get to mile 20 and I've ruined myself. So I think when it comes to distance running, you've almost got to ignore what's around you, find your happy place. And then when it does hurt, because it will at some point, you just got to dig in and just take yourself to your happy place. And that's what I probably love about distance running. And this is going to sound a real weird double Dutch kind of thing to say. But I actually quite like hurting myself, and I think I missed that about the 400-metre training. And that's why I'd go to the South Downs Way last week and just run, because I knew it's going to hurt. Or that's why I've done an ultra marathon, because someone said, I bet you can't. And I think, well, how dare you say I can't do it? Watch this. You know, and I'm a bit of an idiot, but I don't know if it's a bit sadistic or a bit of self-harm in there. I don't know what it is, but there's something lovely. And you both do it, and you did it for a living. There's something lovely about pushing yourself further than you're actually
you're
really
not
ready to go. It's brilliant
I
feeling.
don't think you're trying to hurt yourself. I think you're just trying to prove to yourself that you can mentally override that bit of pain. That bit of pain, I'm bigger than that. I can just keep going through it. And it does become a little bit of a game, doesn't it? Like, how much can I take? How
did you two do it in terms of, how did you do it when you've done a marathon, both of you, and you know, you're 18 miles in and you've still got a long way to go and you're already hurting. I mean, you're not quitters, are you? So, but you must be able to have, there must be something in elite sports people where you've got that switch where you can say, right, pain is really bad. No, it's not. Goodbye. And you turn it off and you keep going, because most people will want to quit. Most people want to stop, but you don't.
But that's what it is. I think there is an intrinsic part of you that can tell whether it's pain where you have to stop or whether it's pain that you can fight against and kind of numb out. And you talked about going to your happy place. We talk about coping techniques. Mine was literally counting up to 100, go again. And all I was thinking about was what number comes next, one foot in front of the other. And it is like a game. It's like, how much can I carry on before this pain gets so much that I'm either going to have to slow down or worse than that. And I guess the turning point for me was in Athens, where I beat myself up a lot afterwards, after the Olympic Games in 2004, because I didn't carry on. And I was thinking, should I have pushed myself to the point where I literally collapsed on the floor? And I've actually got to the point where I'm okay now, because I know deep inside some part of me knew that wasn't normal pain and knew that I was going to be doing damage if I pushed on further. But until that happened, I didn't know, because I'd never been faced with actual pain that you should not carry on through and that would make it worse. And I didn't realise it. And then Rob Di Castello wrote me the most lovely letter afterwards. And he literally said, be proud of yourself that you could listen to those early signs and know it was bad and stop, because I ran until I collapsed and he never actually got back from that point. And so that was the real clarity moment, which was like, okay, when I need to, I can block it out and push on. And when it is really bad, your body will know. There will be something inside that says to you, this is something that you can't carry on with. Yeah. And you have to push through. But I think up to that point, it is kind of that game, and it's recognising it. And I'm going through it a little bit now with my son, Raf, who's suddenly got into running this year, and it's really great. But I had to explain to him, listen, you've probably inherited a little bit of my pain threshold. So you've got to put almost numbers on it. And that's what I had to do when I was training. And physios literally said to me, if it's above a 5 out of 10, you've got to not run on it. Because if it's less than that, it might be one of those niggles that you can just run off and you can kind of play that game with. But if it's above that, likelihood is by running on it in training, you're going to make it worse. I think when that happens in a race, it's a different thing altogether, as evidenced by my stupidity in Boston in carrying on and still dealing with that calf injury now. Because you talked about nerve bullets earlier. It literally felt like someone shot me with a nerve bullet in the back of my calf at 9 miles.
You know, Athens, just going back to that, did you realise, because I've known you forever, and I remember, before that, but I remember Athens where I just thought the nation just loves you. Do you know, you're one of those moments in your life, you know, when you're sat at the side of the road there and you're in despair and your world is broken. Did you at all ever realise the impact that, because I only talk for myself, watching it at home with my family, I was like, oh, my poor Paula, and I felt your pain, and I also had a huge amount of respect and love for you. But I think we talked earlier about why people are quite all right with us, because they respect what I've done. You got the nation's hearts, I think, then, really. Did you realise that, though, in terms of, was there any feeling? Was it when you got back to Team Hotel or got back to Britain and everyone was like, oh, how did it feel? Because for me,
it was really mixed, mixed, because I think I was devastated, and I really felt like I'd let a lot of people down. And I really struggled with that. But at the same time, and I did get a fair bit of animosity, but it was before social media, so it was nothing compared to what athletes would go through now. But I also got a huge amount of goodwill that you're talking about, and it probably took months for that to come through. The immediate was, oh my God, I've let everyone down. Everyone's really pissed off with me because I didn't get the medal that I should have done at the Olympics, and I was dealing with my own pain of not having done that. But then it's because then we're obviously 2004. The majority of it were handwritten letters that people took the time to write, and I couldn't get through them all and thank them all quickly enough. And that was the kind of bit where you just think, my goodness, these people have actually taken the time to sit down and write a letter, post it, and to kind of convey that. And that is the bit that, it's really touching. At the same time, I still did feel like I'd let a lot of people down.
But that's the power of elite athletes. You're so driven and passionate about something that you kind of don't go easy on yourself. It's like that. You run a PB and you go, right, I've set the bar higher, and there's always more because that's how you get to there. But in reality, like, I think Euan is making a really great point of that there are moments, maybe not in that moment, but there are moments in our career when we hit a low, when we really find who loves us and how much people care.
Oh, definitely. I mean, when you go through any tough time,
you
immediately find out, don't you, who your friends are. And basically, I mean, we're getting really deep here, but basically that is what matters in life, isn't it? That when you hit those tough times, if you've got people in your corner, then you're going to get through those much better. And if you've got running in your corner, you get through even easier.
I remember you saying that, I mean, probably not for now, but I remember you telling me about that when Crammy interviewed you afterwards, and kind of the whole everything around that, because you talked a bit about it at one of the training days we were at, and just the circumstances of how much Crammy just wanted to look out for you more than anything.
Well, I think it was really hard, and you'll know about this. When you're in the stadium, you've kind of got to wear the two hats, and Crammy was really thrown in the deep end there. And the backstory to that was they'd actually been out, because obviously I've grown up sharing rooms with Al, I'm really best friends with Al, Steve's partner. And so they had been out in Font doing some interviews. And at the time that they were out there, Steve's coach Jimmy had passed away. And so it was a really kind of sad moment there. And then we went into Athens, and that happened. And he was in a really, really difficult role as a broadcaster. I think he did a really good job, because I'm probably not an easy... When I get emotional as well, it all comes pouring out. And I'm crying, and I'm really, really open with my emotions. And I think that was such a hard role that he was put into. But at the same time, for me, it was actually easier than... It was never going to be easy, but it was easier having somebody that I trusted to talk to. It's like Sally Gunnell being there, being able to give me a hug and doing the post-race interviews. Someone that you've grown up with, looking up to. And I'll never forget, she said to me that day, she said, listen, now it's the end of the world, but believe me, when you've got kids, you'll put perspective to this, and it's just a race, and that's all it is. Yeah. And at the time, I was like, yeah, right. But when you actually do have kids and you move on, and then those kids go through things that are really tough, then obviously you absolutely think, oh, you know what, it was just a race, that's all it was.
Yeah, it really helps when you're being interviewed and you're working with colleagues who have been there and done it, and that's why I think our sport does it well when there's ex-athletes like yourself, Paula, now as a pundit, as a commentator, there, because you can feel the pain of an athlete's disappointment, but you can also feel the joy in their triumph, and we all understand those emotions. And I'd like to think from all the sports we do it pretty well. We do it pretty well, whereby we call it how it is, and that's our job, and it can be tough at times, but we also do it with a little bit of compassion, and we understand. And I talk to a lot of people about this. I mean, sport has been wonderful for me. I love it. It's given me a great life. It's kind of made me, and it's also broken me as well. We've touched upon it there for you in Athens. It can be a cruel mistress sport, because yes, when it's going well, you get the plaudits. Yes, when you qualify for the Olympics or whatever it might be, you get the credit. It's you've done it. But you're also that lonely one when you're sat at home on a sofa watching the major championships on television because you haven't made the team because you're injured, or you're the only one who knows your body can only handle 3 days a week training because you're not the athlete you once were, or one day you're going to have to hang up the running spikes or shoes and call it a day. And it's a great sport, or any sport is great, but it's also really, really tough. I think we come from a sport which is it's very unforgiving when it's not on your side. But yeah, as I said, you flip the coin and it's going well and you're in the best place. So for you to say, Sally, to say to you there in that moment, listen, your world is over right now. You're at the lowest low, but don't worry. You'll get through it. You'll face more adversities in life and you'll be a better person for it. At the time, you think, what are you talking about? But it's true. And I definitely learned more from the races where I messed it up, or the years where I was injured, rather than the years when it was plain sailing and I took it for granted. Oh, look at me, aren't I good? I'm running 44 for fun. You know, I learnt more from the races where I was struggling and I was injured. And I'd like to think those bad times in sport have made me a better person and hopefully a better dad. Because, you know, it's just sport. It's just sport. And for all of us, what we've achieved in our lives, it's brought us to the point we're at now. And I certainly would like to think I've learned lessons through sport, and it's really shaped me to be hopefully a good person. And I sit here and I genuinely mean this every day. I sometimes have to say in the mirror, I pinch myself and go, do you know what? You're bloody lucky. You made a living out of something you love doing, which most people would give anything to do. So when I'm having a bit of a down day, I just remember all I used to do is run around in a circle and I got paid for it. It was great, isn't it? And through that, I've travelled the world. I've met some great people and I've done some fantastic other things through doors that I've opened because of sport. So I think we're all very lucky that we've got that common bond and that common love for running, be it sprinting, long distance, whatever it is. And you know, it's amazing. So lucky to have been a part of it.
And I think that is so
Keeps you
strong
humble.
because, but you speak to some athletes and they're like, I've seen both sides of the sport and I don't want my kids to be involved in it. I mean, I'm going through that. My kids are 18 and 14. So they're definitely at that point now where I want them to find what they're passionate about and do that. Should that be running? Massive backer of that, because it's beautiful to share something that you're so passionate about with them, but they have to find it on their own. But certainly I'm not one of those people who says, right, no, there's too much negative in my sport. I don't want my children involved in that. If they want to do that, absolutely love it, because it's also something I can understand and back them in. How are you in that place with your kids, or they're still trying out everything at that age, right?
Yeah, I obviously I'm going to say this, but genuinely, my boy Teddy's pretty quick. I think, you know, but
what a surprise!
Yeah, but he plays football. My middle son Dougie is an absolute unit. He's only 3 and he's nearly as big as Teddy, who's 6. He plays rugby, and like honestly, you never know, do they? They're young. We'd never push them into sport. We just encourage them to find their way, like you said, do loads of stuff. He also plays the guitar, my boy Teddy. You know, he loves doing all sorts of stuff. So I would love it if they love sport and they sacrifice. But I would be very honest to them and say, listen, it's not all plain sailing. I tell you now, this sport is going to break you mentally and physically. It's going to challenge you. Nothing's easy. If you want to be good at something, it doesn't matter how naturally talented you are. There's a big world out there. There's going to be other talented people out there. So, you know, I'd love them to do sport, but I wouldn't necessarily shove them in that direction. But
no,
I would gently nudge. I mean, one thing I did as a kid, which I'm desperate to get my boys into, was actually BMX racing. So I learned so much through doing BMXing. I wouldn't have been the athlete I was if I hadn't, from the age of 9 or 10, understood what it was about to get a good start. Yes, it's a different sport, but it's exactly the same. You know, go as hard as you can. And I think actually I built up a bit of a tolerance to lactic acid at a very young age without even knowing what lactic was. All I knew is towards the end of a race, my legs felt heavy and it hurt, and I liked the feeling. And it makes me weird, I don't know, but I love the pain. So I think I'll get my kids into BMXing as soon as I can, because it toughs them up.
It definitely feels like when I look back on things and I talk to people like yourself and everyone, how that initial, it's like, I use a comparison, it's hard to shake that initial meeting of another person. And it's the same with sport. That initial kind of introduction to sport and the initial reason why you're doing it is hard to shake. Like you say, you found that relationship with lactic acid, and that's very similar to what I did. I just became obsessed with how much can I push my body. But then as you go through sport, you get another experience. And I just wanted to touch upon quite a funny story from my point of view, that as you get success, it kind of can add a challenge of not take yourself too seriously, because then you can fall into a trap of almost believing your own hype, I guess, is what I'm looking for. And I had this in Barcelona in 2010, and I'd won European medals before, so it wasn't totally foreign, but it was because it was a senior champs, there was a lot more kind of focus on it. Mo won the 10K, I was second, so we were first and second, and it was a very British kind of exciting moment, lap of honour together, all this, interviews afterwards, blah, blah, blah. And the next day we went to the press conference, and it was both of us rather than just obviously one of us. And there was a small part of me that just thought, wow, I don't want to say the words too big for your boots, but you're almost going on this journey of, wow, this is this is cool. Look at the attention I'm getting. And we were sat in the room full of media people. All the seats are filled, which is quite unique for me. I sit down, and Mo and I sat there, and obviously everyone's asking Mo questions, asking Mo. All the dictaphones are on the table, asking Mo. I'm not kidding you. After about 20 minutes of questions to him, the UKA press officer at the back of the room was feeling a bit bad for me because I'd had zero question. And I'm not kidding you. She asked me a question at the back of the room. She was like, "Oh, Chris, can I just ask you a question?" Trying to act like one of the media. Every single media guy at the front leant forward, turned their dictaphone off. And I sat there and I went, do they, what, I need to carry on like they didn't just do that and they're not bothered about what I'm about to say. So I answered the question, and it was like that kind of dose of reality of, look, Mo's the main guy here, Mo's the show, and that's fine. And I kind of came out of the room just going, yep, I'm still Thommo. I'm just still the same old guy, still doing his thing.
Maybe that's the best. Maybe that's the best thing that could have happened to you, because if it had been all about you, you might have become a right dick, and but you haven't. But that's why ever I see you, the British public love you, because you are just Thommo, and I think that's your endearing feature for me, is the fact you're a lovely lad. And boy, can you run. And by the way, I was in Barcelona watching that, mate. I was cheering you. I was in the crowd there. But no, I think some people do believe the hype. And I'll give you an example. And I'm not going to give you a name in particular, but I think some people believe the hype. And let's use the National Lottery, which is amazing, as an example. Yeah. I think over the years, there's been athletes who might be second, third, maybe fourth ranked in the country, but they're getting the National Lottery funding. They're on relay squads. And they think they're the bee's knees, right? They think they've done it. And they sit back and they're happy because they're making a little living out of sport, whereas they should be thinking, this isn't good enough. I'm not even the best in Britain, let alone Europe or the world. But yet they probably subconsciously don't push themselves as hard as they did. Because in my day, you had to win a medal from a major championship before you'd even get a shoe sponsor, right? So it was never about anything apart from pushing your body to the absolute limit to be the best that you could be, to hopefully then get sponsored. Whereas I think some people do believe the hype, they become a little bit soft and they don't want it as much. And I think if you in that press conference had been like, oh, forget Mo, Thommo's the man, then maybe you would have just gone to train the next week with a bit more arrogance and being a bit complacent. Whereas you weren't. You probably thought, oh, whatever, back to training then, back to the grind. And I think, some people, unfortunately, in life do believe the hype, and they're the ones that don't stay around forever. So longevity, my friend, you keep nice, keep being you. People like you.
Well, I think you've touched on such a great point there, though, Euan, and it's applicable to anyone who's listening. And it is just find your motivation, isn't it? That basically, why are you doing it? And for elite athletes, it's often not that different to your mass runners. We're doing it to see how good you can be, to see how fast you can run. On the flip side, there are also people who don't want to know that. They just want to go out and escape, and they just want to use it for mental health. But they've found their reason why, and they're quite happy with that. And that's what I think is so beautiful about running, is it can bring in all of those. There's a huge part of it that is, we're all just trying to see how good we can be and find out what is the quickest that we can finish the marathon in, do the half marathon in, do an ultra in. But there is also a huge group of people who actually the time doesn't really matter. It's been a part of that camaraderie, and it's all the same on the same day. There's still 56,000 of them all going around the streets of London trying to do something similar. And that is what kind of brings it together, that camaraderie of it can be what you want it to be. But you've absolutely touched on that. There is no difference from the elites to the masses in terms of those who want to get that motivation out of it.
Yeah, there's no difference. We all get nervous. We all get to the start line and think, what the blummer what am I doing this again for? It's gonna, there's no different from Joe Bloggs who wants to try and break 25 minutes for a 5K than someone who's trying to run 16 minutes for a 5K, whatever it might be. We've all got the same insecurities, we've all got the same feelings, and we've all got the same pride when we come through a finish line, however fast it is. If it's a PB, we go, oh yeah, I've never run that quick before. I can't wait for next week. I'm going to improve. So I think the people who do well in sport are the people who keep it pure, run for the right reasons. And as we said earlier, the byproduct will look after itself. My old coach, bless him, Mike Smith, used to say to me, I don't care how many personal appearances Roger or Jamie are doing. If you don't at least win the Europeans, Commonwealths next year, your value, and he just said, you just take care of things on the track and all the commercial deals will come flooding in. And I never ever used to chase the deals, and they genuinely would look after themselves, because hopefully I was doing the right stuff on the track. I was running quick. I was being the nice bloke that people seem to like, and here I am 30 odd years later, still doing the occasional bit of work here and there. And I'd like to think it's because when I was running so many years ago, I kept it real, like you have done.
Euan, because I didn't know this about you until, and I apologise, I didn't know that you've run the ultra of 100 miles of the South Downs Way, right?
Yeah.
And it's a two question. The first one is, do you think, because the reason you said you did it is because someone basically bet you couldn't, effectively. So do you think that attitude, that can-do attitude, is of a physical challenge like that a nature or nurture thing?
I don't know. I think I'm born a bit stupid, as in I see a challenge and I just do it. In terms of, my mate Susie Chan said, I bet you couldn't do an ultra marathon. And I said, how far is it? And she said, anything over marathon distance, you could do a 50 miler. And she said, her words were, but if you want to be respected as a double hard, do 100. I said, I'll do it then. What's the toughest one? She goes, well, South Downs Way is pretty bad, from Winchester to Eastbourne. I said, yeah, I'll do it. She goes, you can't. I said, I'll do it. And I just did it. And I'll be honest, after about 10 miles, I was in trouble. But I just literally put it into a box at the back of my head and went, I'm finishing this race, whatever it takes. And I also had a good reason to finish as well. I think when you challenge yourself with an endurance event, if you've got a reason to get to that finish line, you will do it. Mm-hmm. And I did it because, it's too long to get into, but I did it because my son was very sick, nearly died as a child. And I had written along my arm, for those less fortunate, for those families who didn't bring their children home out of intensive care. And every time it hurt, I looked at a picture of Teddy in hospital, and I looked at the writing on my arm, and I knew I had to finish. So I knew I would finish. I don't think I've really answered your question, apart from I've got that switch whereby I'll just go, shut out all the noises in my head, all the you can't do this, you can't do it, turn it off, and I can do it. So I think anybody literally can do whatever they put their mind to. If you believe you'll get there, you can do it, whatever your ability. I'm not built for ultra running. I'm like 16 stone. I shouldn't be doing that. And in fact, the day I did it, I think only 40% of starters finished, but I knew I'd get to the finish line because I promised those families in my mind I would do it.
And that
so
is phenomenal. I think you did
have a real good reason, you'll do it.
Yeah. No, I think you definitely did answer the question there, because it's a mix, isn't it? It's a little bit what's inbuilt in you, but it's also, you don't know until you put yourself in that situation, the way that the nurturing everybody around you, everything that you've lived through will come together to get you through it. So I think it's a mix, Thommo.
I think what people have to remember, I know we're massively overrun on time, but I think people have to remember this is the most powerful tool we've got. And you can let it break you, you can let it make you quit, you can use it against you, or you can say, no chance, I'm not quitting today, I'm getting there. And I think the mind is so powerful, way after the body wants to quit. If that doesn't quit, the body will just continue. As you said, Paula, earlier, one foot in front of the other. It's as simple as that.
Well, someone said something to me recently, which, again, apologies for being slightly deep, but quite often, when you depress things or can't do, or that kind of asks you to depress things down, the actual opposite to that is aggression. And we see, because sometimes we can see aggression as quite a negative concept, but actually it's actually to be proactive against, rather than saying no, can't do, depress it down, it's you be aggressive towards that goal. So when you say someone's to challenge you to 100 miles, there's going to be 99.9% of you that says you can't. But you listen to that one little bit of aggression inside you that goes, yes, I can. And that's the dominant feature. And you deal with it later. Because I remember did you have to have 6 months off afterwards? Was it something like that?
I didn't run for two years. 2 years. I broke a bone. I broke a bone in my foot, and then I got severe plantar fasciitis, and I didn't run properly for 2 years. But you're totally right. The aggression side of it. In fact, I was smiling when you said that. Last week I went for a run, and I had my headphones in. And I was about 6 miles in, and I was swearing at myself. And this woman walked around the corner in this woods walking a dog, and I scared her, and I had to say, I'm so sorry, I wasn't shouting at you, because I quite often on a run will shout at myself. And yes, you can effing do it. Don't you effing quit? I'll be angry at myself when it hurts. And I quite often have to apologise to people, especially in the middle of nowhere, and there's a woman on her own walking a dog. there's some tattooed idiot coming out the bushes with his top off, swearing. It's a little bit scary. So I have to. I'm always apologising.
I talk to myself, and I've done that a few times, but I've never shouted at myself. But I have
I
kind
always
of come
shout at
around the
myself.
corner, and I'm talking to myself, and I see people look at me going, "What is she doing?" But yeah, things come out, don't they, when you're running, which is brilliant. Thank you so much again, you an
Thank you.
absolute
You're a
gold.
star.
Wow, that was so good. Again, a massive thank you to Ewan Thomas. I think there's some absolute gold in there. We did massively
character.
overrun, so very
Yeah.
conscious of that. And I do think, what about that for an idea, Thommo? We crack on with a bit of honours board now, and then we'll do a whole bonus episode, and we'll try and maybe get that going on a weekly basis so that we have much more chance to come back with all your questions. Because once again, those questions come in on social to @Paula's Run Club, to the email Paula's Run Club @momentumbroadcast.co.uk, and to that WhatsApp number. Do you want to have a go on it,
I was
Thommo?
going to say, she'll have a go this time.
Come on, yeah, go on, have
Yeah.
a go on it.
I'm a bit nervous, but here we go. 075 64 74 7914. Felt
With
good.
a +44 if you are outside of the UK listening.
I did. I knew I didn't get it. Take out the O, add the +4. Yeah. This is why I can't be trusted with anything, with any housekeeping. I always miss something, but yeah.
But thank you so much for all of those. We are getting some great questions in. They are steering the direction of the podcast as well. And I think let's crack on with the honours board, shall we, for this week? So
You go
I'm going to
first or me?
start out. I'm going to start out with the recent one actually, because I was in Loughborough for our training camp day, and I want to give a huge shout out to Dan, who got into running basically during COVID, progressed his time down under 4 hours, and then absolutely smashed London this year in that weather with negative splits because he'd been listening to the podcast, and went out and did that on that day. And 3:24 he ran in London. So big shout out to Dan Winter.
Fantastic. There's a little bit of self-passing on the back there.
No.
It's fine. You know. It was 90% down to you, Paula. Yeah. I'm joking. I'm teasing. Right. Jane Hamilton. Hi, Paula and Thommo. So glad you're back. I've missed your chats during my runs. I've listened from the beginning. I was lucky enough to meet Paula in Tokyo before achieving a PB and a BQ for Boston to the 2026. It's BQ qualifying.
Boston
qualifier.
yeah.
Sorry, right, for 2026. Since then, I've managed to get a PB in the Berlin half marathon, 1 hour 45 and 15 seconds, and a 10k PB. So just as you said, I've concentrated on shorter distances. Can't wait to listen to all your advice for the next target. Cheese, Jane Hamilton. Fantastic. That's really cool. I think that's something that I always try and say to people is, jumping from marathon to marathon can be mentally and physically exhausting, and actually setting it up through shorter distances is really helpful. So I'm really glad that's stuck, and well done for your PBs.
Excellent. And another one for the honours board this week, Andy Lawrence. Andy is from Bournemouth, and he has written in, thanks so much for the second series of the podcast. Really enjoyed the first, and it definitely helped him to achieve his first ever London Marathon goals. We asked in episode 1, what made you start running? And he says, about 3 years ago, I decided I wanted to make some lifestyle changes, bought an Apple Watch, subscribed to their Apple Fitness, and one of the activities you could do was running. One lunchtime, I decided to give it a go, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. My first run was for about 20 minutes, and I couldn't wait to do another one. My next run was a bit longer, and I just remember increasing time and distance. I find running is so good for both physical and mental well-being, and I genuinely look forward to every run I have planned in my week. I've recently met a friend through my wife, someone she works with. My friend is called Mario, and it's been a good few years since he ran. Every Saturday now joins me for a run along Bournemouth Beach and has gradually increased his pace and distance. In just 3 weeks, he's reached 5k, and I like to think I've passed on my initial learns to him to gradually increase distance in each run. I hope I can inspire him to run a marathon in the future. So that's double shout out. Shout out to Andy, and shout out to the great work that Andy has done with Mario, and good luck to the both of you.
That's absolutely brilliant. I like the pay it forward. I love that aspect. Should we do one more?
One more, go on then.
Shall we fit one more in? Okay. Helen Sanders, great to have the podcast back. Hi, I'm 53 years old. I started following a training plan in a WhatsApp running group of alcohol-free runners 2 years ago for a new challenge to run a 10k. I'd never seriously run before this and never got any faster or further than 5k. I was so excited to find myself running further and stronger. Sorry, yes, because it's, yeah, and stronger with a consistent plan. After that, I joined their half marathon and then full marathon groups, and I ran my first marathon in Amsterdam last year. I then got a place in Tokyo Marathon this year and started listening to your podcast because Paula was doing Tokyo too, and I finished it in 4 hours and 45 minutes strong, and very happy, very happy, much to my amazement. Listening to the episode where Paula was talking about experience in Tokyo was my favourite. I never saw myself as a proper runner, but the game changer has been hearing from other people how running does not get easier and easier like I always thought, but sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easier. Life, injuries and even boredom all get in the way, but the group was a game changer for me. Your podcast reinforced that I was amazed to learn proper runners like you two also find running not always easy and great, which just inspires me to keep going on the hard days. I loved your first series. It was packed full with so much useful information. I'm very happy you're back for a second. Thank you very much. I'm currently training for my first high rocks race in 2 weeks. But the thing which has been amazing lately is I dare to join a running club. I never thought I was good enough for this, but last Friday I did a social run with 100 people, all speeds and abilities. I'm making friends and loving the connections. It was amazing. The social part of running has been a total game changer for me and is inspiring me to keep going and see where this journey takes me. Good luck with the new series. Can't wait to hear where coming from next. Thanks for all your inspiration, Helen Saunders. Fantastic. What a lovely
I know, and so fitting it's in this episode, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because I do think that's what we were just talking about with you, and is that magic of the running community, how strong we all are. And so, yeah, huge thank you to everybody for listening this week. And maybe even by the time this one drops, we might have already started working on that second episode in the week to get to you with that. And why not leave us a voice message as well? We haven't had any of those yet this series, have we, Thommo? So no, that would be good to be able to play you out within the episode. Again, that number is +44 756 474 7914. It will also be in the link.
Didn't trust me with that one, did you?
Do it on socials. we can mix and match. We've got yours now. Go on, you can do the email address. You've
had your one. You need to give it to me.
Paula's Run Club at momentumbroadcast.co.uk.
Paula's Run Club at momentumbroadcast.com.
.co.uk. I'll stick to doing that. Okay, you can get in touch on socials at Paula's Run Club, and the email address is paulasrunclub at momentumbroadcast.co.uk.
Do you know what I'm going to do? If I do it, I'm going to give my own email address. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to end up giving my own number and my own email address because I can't get it right. Anyway.
You know what they say about working with kids and animals and Thommo?
Yeah, which one am I? Am I a kid or am I an animal? Or am I a combination of the two?
You're just Thommo.
I'm just...
You're just Thommo, that's why we love you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
This podcast, of course, has been a Momentum Broadcast production. Thank you.
Yes, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time when we hopefully will be starting possibly a new mini-series.